God did not give Moses a blueprint. He gave him a mathematical proof that would stand inside wood and linen and gold.
The tabernacle, Exodus 25 through 40. God spends more pages describing the tabernacle than he spends on the creation of the entire universe.
16 chapters. More space than Genesis gives to creation, to Adam, to Noah, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob combined. And theologians have always asked why. Why does the God who made the cosmos in 6 verses spend 16 chapters on tent dimensions? The answer, Jordan, is in the numbers themselves.
What numbers specifically?
Every measurement God gave Moses for the tabernacle resolves to multiples of specific numbers. The outer court, 100 cubits by 50 cubits by 5 cubits high. 100 is 10 squared. 50 is 5 times 10. 5 is the number of grace in Hebrew numerics. The inner tabernacle structure, 30 cubits long, 10 cubits wide, 10 cubits tall. The Holy of Holies, a perfect cube, 10 cubits on every side. The Ark of the Covenant, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, 1.5 cubits tall. Every dimension is a ratio. Every ratio resolves consistently. The materials, the number of sockets, the number of boards, the number of pillars, all structured around the same numerical DNA.
And this matters because?
Because when you build the Temple of Solomon 600 years later, the same mathematical DNA appears at a different scale. The Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple, a perfect cube, 20 cubits on every side, same shape, different scale, same ratio to the overall structure. And then in Revelation 21, the New Jerusalem, a perfect cube again, 12,000 furlongs on every side. The dwelling place of God is always the same geometric form, from the wilderness to eternity. One author, one design language, sealed in the first dimension he ever gave.
Marcus, what is the significance of the cube? Why is God's dwelling place always a cube specifically?
A cube is the only three-dimensional shape where every dimension is identical. Length equals width equals height. It is the shape of perfect symmetry. No dimension dominates any other. In Hebrew thought, it represents completeness and perfection in every direction simultaneously. The Holy of Holies, in both the tabernacle and the temple, was the place where God's presence dwelt in the most concentrated form on earth. The shape of that space is not incidental. It is the architectural statement about the nature of the one who dwells there. Perfect, identical in every dimension, no greater and no lesser in any direction. And John sees it again in Revelation, the city where God will dwell with his people forever. And the first thing he measures is the shape, a perfect cube. From Moses in the wilderness to John on Patmos is 1,500 years. The design language did not change.
The verification challenge for today's episode?
Open Exodus 25 and start reading the dimensions. You do not need advanced mathematics. You need a pencil and a willingness to divide. Every cubit measurement God gives Moses, divided by 5, divided by 10. Look for the ratios. Then read 1 Kings chapter 6 for the temple dimensions. Then read Revelation chapter 21 for the New Jerusalem. Map the shapes. You will find the same author's signature across 1,500 years of scripture, in wood, in stone, and in the gold of the eternal city. The building always tells you who the architect is.
We have an architect on the line today. David, you build things for a living. Welcome to the Sealed Word.
Thank you, Marcus. I've been in architecture for 22 years, commercial, residential, sacred spaces, and I want to tell your listeners something from a professional standpoint. When an architect designs a building, they work from what we call a design language, a consistent set of proportional relationships, geometric principles, and material ratios that give a building coherence. When you look at a building designed by a great architect, you can identify their design language even without seeing the plans. It is consistent, it is recognizable, it is traceable.
And when you applied your professional training to the tabernacle specifications?
The design language of the tabernacle is one of the most coherent I have ever analyzed. And I want to be precise about that word, coherent. Not impressive, not elaborate, coherent. Every dimension relates to every other dimension through consistent ratios. The proportional relationships between the outer court, the tabernacle structure, and the Holy of Holies are not arbitrary. They are designed. And when I compared those proportional relationships to Solomon's temple, scaled by a factor of 2, the same design language appeared. Same ratios, different scale, one designer.
And what does that tell you as a professional?
It tells me that whoever specified these dimensions understood proportion and geometry at a level that was not common in the ancient Near East. The Egyptian temples of the same period do not show this level of internal proportional coherence. The Mesopotamian ziggurats do not. The tabernacle specifications are architecturally anomalous for their time, and the only explanation I can construct that accounts for the data, as an architect, as a professional who reads dimensions for a living, is that the specifications came from someone who was not constrained by the building technology of the time, someone who was designing from the final form backward.
Designing from eternity backward.
That is exactly the phrase that came to my mind, designing from eternity backward.
Designing from eternity backward, the Holy of Holies as a cube, the New Jerusalem as a cube, the same shape, 1,500 years apart, 2 million years apart in terms of eternity.
And it is all in the book. All of it is in the 66 books of the King James Bible, and the text the translators received, and the dimensions God gave Moses on a mountain, and the vision John received on an island. The same author, the same design language, the same sealed architecture. You do not have to take our word. You do not have to take David's word. Open Exodus 25. Read the dimensions, get a calculator, and ask yourself who specified these numbers, and then keep reading all the way to Revelation 21 and watch the shape appear again. GraceNotesMinistries.com/KJV numerics. The blueprint is in the book.